you a little louder. Alright, so with what topic do you want to start? Should I explain you the easy one first, and then we get into the heated debates?
I don't know. It's up to you, honestly.
Okay, so let's start by explaining why socially constructed gender is the more useful term to go by. So it basically comes down to this: no one in reality ever actually inspects biological gender, because what they mean by that is they think it means chromosomes, which is actually called genetic gender, and no one does that. What people actually do is they go by the way people present themselves and the way they look. And so simply the reason why the socially constructed form is way more important is people can change their looks pretty easily. So you don't really care about what they biologically are. You care how they present. So there's really no reason to take the biological definition.
I mean, you see, there's a difference between a male that has female characteristics because that's fine. That's just a male with feminine characteristics. But if you're gonna go with the other way, which is that's a male, but they have female characteristics, but that doesn't make them female. Like if I just dress up as a
Yeah,
woman, that
sure.
would make me a
So
woman.
the reason there's a theory called gender sorry, performative gender theory, which assumes that the way you act is the gender you are. Because usually when we are talking about gender, we mean the gender roles, and that's what we actually care about. That's what people want to be treated as. And the problem with that theory is simply that it's pretty vague. Like at what point do you decide that somebody is acting as the other gender? So what you do is you just take the utilitarian approach and call them whatever they want to be called, like, because that's going to make them happy, and it's true.
Yeah, but the thing is, what they do is, well, I mean, I have no empirical data to just back this up, but from my point of view, what I understand is that they just look at the majority of women, and if a man acts like in a strangely behavior, let's say, not really strangely, but that's the term I'm going to use. They compare it to what the majority of other women act like, and so they come to a conclusion, which is either that man acts like a woman or not.
Oh, yeah, but then you're supporting the thesis that's socially constructed, because the way people act changes over time. So what you compare to is always going to be socially constructed.
I
Like,
mean,
I can give you the easiest example. In Greece, women were expected to be the sexually aggressive ones. So if back then people were sexually aggressive, then it would be a female characteristic. So if you're trying to compare things, so if you're saying that the way we find out if someone is the gender woman is by comparing them to other women, then you're supporting the thesis that it's socially constructed.
yeah, sure. There are specific behaviors that have been socially constructed, but there are also the examples such as like when there were two genders. Back then when how do you call this the okay, let's take the Stone Age for example, right? So back then people didn't know what gender was. They didn't separate the two genders. They would
Oh,
just
wait. You don't need to know what gender is to act upon it. The way society works is that people tend to go into certain roles, and these roles are pretty, like, these roles aren't biological. The fact that somebody is a liar may shape the entire concept of your entire town, because people shape their image of people in a certain way just because of minuscule things they see. So and I can support this claim by simply if you gave me some time or research it yourself, there have been many different instances of gender developed at different places. And what this thesis supports is the fact that societies generally construct their gender in a way that suits the way they are, like the material interests.
what I was about to say is that Yeah, I do agree to at least an extent that you do not have to know what gender is to, uh, you know, like what did you say exactly?
Oh, wait, I can actually give a better example. So, let's say you're in the Stone Age and you require hunters.
Yeah.
Well, males are the stronger ones, so so the expectation to men is going to be that they are confident and that they are caring for their family. But if you're in a society like Greece, that is highly developed and way more about bureaucracy and other cultural reforms, then suddenly you have a society in which a woman can take the dominating role. So whatever the current social construct is highly reliant on what society needs it to be. In modern times, it's a bit more complicated because media kind of distorts the way people see it, but that's generally the way it's constructed.
I mean, they did back in the Stone Age. They didn't just, a man didn't have sex with another man. They biologically went to have sex with a woman, right? They tried to reproduce with
Okay,
her.
so homosexuality is a thing.
Oh yeah, it is, but they like it. Homosexuality comes biologically, from what I've seen and heard.
Oh, yeah.
But
If you want, I can give you another argument. Like, even if you were to go down the biological road, there have been findings that the brains of transgender people line up more with the gender they identify as. So you can interpret that in two ways. Either the brain is drawn in a certain way that they are the certain gender, or their brain aligns to the way they identify themselves. But either way, they are going to become biologically what they think they are.
well, I mean, I can call myself a cow, but like that doesn't make me a cow.
Oh yeah, okay, but that's because that's an irrelevant category for, like, a cow is okay, a cow is a construct that relates to something we have like pretty objectively determined. Like, a cow isn't fluid. A cow is a certain animal and that doesn't change. But what a female or a male is constantly changes. So at the end of the day, why wouldn't we change it in a way that makes people happier?
I mean, both cows and humans develop, and based on the human gender or the gender that the cow has, they develop a specific way.
Okay, so
I mean, if women develop in a different way than men do, then doesn't that make that gender is is biological a valid argument?
oh no, that's not sufficient. Um, like, simply because the amount of developments are incredibly diverse. So the only way you could make that argument is if you were to arbitrarily assign a category and decide what counts as what womanly and what counts as manly. And like I said, what that is has changed over time.
I'm talking about. I'm not specifically talking about development in their characteristics or, I mean, their like behavior. I'm talking about development and also their brain or their body. And both genders have different kind of development in uh,
Okay,
the way
so
they speak
let,
or.
what I just said was about the body. The body develops in very different ways. We
Yeah.
just categorize kind of similar seeming developments as one category, but that's completely arbitrary. And if you're talking about the brain, then the brain is incredibly unique. So we would need, if we were to go with that route, then every single human would have a different gender.
Uh, the thing is, the women and men. So like yeah, everyone thinks everyone's brain is different, and that has been proven in many studies. But women and men, like okay, so when a woman is born and she starts, for example, developing, right? She becomes older. She has a specific behavior that she has not adopted by other people, but had since the moment that she was born. For example. that thing where newborns decide what toys they want to play with, and like when
Okay, wait,
men.
not newborns, infants at 9 months old. Like, a lot of learning happens in that time.
Wait, I thought this study was talking about.
No, the study you sent me, I can look it up again. One sec.
Yeah,
Yeah, children
I
as
thought
young
it
as
was
9 months old.
I thought it
Yeah.
was saying like 9 months, which is like how much pregnancy lasts and when they're born.
Oh, 9 months is a lot of time for children.
I know,
They,
like I thought it was talking about like the 9 months and then they're born and they do that
oh,
behavior.
no, no, we
Yeah.
count age from the moment they are born, not earlier. Okay. Yeah, so another argument you can make for why the socially constructed definition is better is simply when we are talking about male and female and addressing people in a certain way, we do so because of the utility it provides us to have certain expectations of them, and usually people don't identify themselves as the other gender just because they do so because they act that way and they want to be treated that way. So um, it's more useful to identify them with the gender they identify as, simply because that's the role that gender pronouns or gender expectations play in our society. They are supposed to provide us some utility and information of how to treat people.
What are your thoughts on the thing that the World Health Organization had uploaded, which suggested that gender dysphoria is a disorder?
Yeah, obviously it's a disorder, but
Okay, so
that doesn't disprove that gender is socially constructed.
oh no no no! I was trying to like explain how the okay. So when a person wants to identify as another gender, they don't think that they're the other gender since the moment they're born. They grow up and then they see that the behavior that the other gender has fits them more, and so they decide that they want to be the opposite one.
Well, if the behavior of the other gender fits them more, then you could already make an argument that they are the other gender. It's just the means of being treated that way that's important, and that's why we value the socially constructed definition more, so that they are treated the way they behave, not the way they are born.
That's like my argument. So a man who will in the future let's say that we can predict that a male will want to be seen as a female in the future, right? So they're born and they start developing their body in like the way a male's body develops, but then they're gonna see that the female behaviors that other females have fit them more, and so they're gonna say, "Oh, well, I'm a female," but like their body develops like a male, so aren't they a male with feminine characteristics?
Oh, they are biologically male, and but in any way that we care about, they are like, unless you're a doctor, they are female, because you don't care about whether they have a dick unless you want to fuck them, I guess.
Oh no,
Um,
that's sex. So sex and gender are different. Like the way your body develops as a male or a female has nothing to do with sex or your chromosomes. It has to do with your gender.
uh, what?
Yeah, like your
Are you
what
are you equating gender and sex right now?
gender and sex aren't the same.
Yeah, I know, but sex is
Yeah,
the
but
one determined.
they still aren't completely disconnected.
Oh no, they aren't completely disconnected.
Yeah.
Um, like what we would talk about is a bimodal distribution. So that means you have two poles, and this is true for both gender and sex. Um, it's wait, one sec. Oh, that's interesting. We can go with that another time. Sorry. Um, all right. So under my interpretation, sex would determine the way you grow up, and gender's just the socially constructed one. What were you saying before?
I was saying that a male has his body developing like a male's body while they grow up, but if they wanna be identified as a female just because female characteristics fit them more, then that means that they are biologically a male with female characteristics.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, we can agree on that. But the point I'm just making is the female characteristics are in society what we actually care about. So we should focus on
Or
that and address them the way.
aren't those socially constructed?
Yes, they are. But the
Okay, so
social constructs are way more important than other things. Like social constructs are like 90% of what makes people happy. Like the way you interact with other people isn't something that's like biologically ingrained. Oh, me have friends, me good. No, it's something that you because of a social construct that values friendship find to be inducing happiness.
okay, so since those female behaviors are a social construct and those characteristics are as well, then that means that that male who is developing in a male's body with male hormones and the brain differences that a
Uh,
male has
so
is having.
about the hormones. So you brought up dysphoria, and you can address that by just inducing female hormones, and that cures the dysphoria. And you're technically correct that people tend to somehow judge the gender by outward characteristics, which is idiotic, but they still kind of do sometimes. So that's the reason why, like, trans rights includes
your
gender therapy.
your hormones do not change when you have gender dysphoria.
No, they don't. We change them through treatment.
But like what Okay, so what they do, what you're saying they do is, for example, a male has gender dysphoria and they want to identify as a female, so they change their hormones on purpose.
Yes, they do that,
Okay,
and it works pretty well actually.
so
Have you ever heard of the large suicide rate amongst trans people? It
yeah,
goes
well,
Yeah, it goes down rapidly if they were able to have gender therapy.
actually, that has to do with acceptance from society, not what
Oh
they
yeah, that's
not.
true. That's true. But a part of it is also because of dysphoria, and the
That's a very
dysphoria,
small part.
yeah, and this dysphoria vanishes if you were able to get hormone therapy and maybe even surgery.
Yeah, but even if they do not get that and they get acceptance from society, they have like substantially like a lot lower chances of committing suicide. So it doesn't
Correct.
really matter.
All right. So the conclusion we draw from that is that acceptance includes addressing them by their preferred pronouns. So we
Yeah,
agree, right? Yes? I
yeah.
didn't.
No, we do, but like okay. So if we are like at a let's say at a dinner table, right? And there's a trans person, and they want to be called a female, and they ask me, they tell me that I should use the pronouns that they tell me to use. I would gladly do that, right? But when I'm having a debate about whether or not gender and pronouns uh, and all of that, like if gender is a social construct, I'm not gonna call them by their pronouns because then I'm just immediately losing the debate that I'm having.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
so we do
like,
agree to an extent.
okay, but the point of this isn't to like have some kind of nonsense debate. You aren't forced to hold to your position. You can just accept that it's a social construct. Like
So what
I
about
could I could also give you the scientific basis for this. There's some article I read. Basically, everyone who's invested in the distinction between gender and sex accepts it. The only scientists that don't treat gender and sex differently are those who have never ever even heard of the problem.
how do I still didn't get how exactly do you explain the fact that man women have different hormones biologically in their body.
What do you mean?
Uh, it, like hormones do not
Oh
have to
yeah,
do
so
with sex,
hormones.
right?
It's okay. So hormones correlate with sex. They aren't entirely predicted by sex. It's like some people are intersex. People can have higher or lower level of hormones despite having XY or XX chromosomes. So there can be a lot of distinctions made, but hormones, and even then, hormones aren't everything that predicts the way your brain will be structured. And like when we are talking about gender being a social construct, the behavioral patterns at the end of the day link back to the brain. So I would
Yeah,
say,
but the
yeah,
behavior that's coming from the brain has to do with their hormones. Because when a woman is on her period, for example,
wait, this is actually a perfect point for me. So because if they actually act as the gender they identify as, then quite obviously the way they identify has a way larger impact on their brain than their hormones.
yeah,
Because
but
otherwise,
they do not like when a male identifies as a female, they do not get they can't get a period, right? They want
oh, okay, so we like I said, there are two different definitions. I'm just arguing to use the socially constructed one. There's no reason not to. Like, we both agree that there's such a thing as biologically male or biologically female. It's a bimodal distribution and not a binary, but there is such a thing.
okay,
But I'm
let's
just
take
arguing.
it. Wait, let's take it the very easy way, right? So let's look up what the definition of a social construct is. Uh, okay, so what is the meaning of social construct? A social construct or construction concerns the meaning, notion, or connotation placed on an object or event by a society and adopted by the inhabitants of that society with respect to how they view or deal with the object or event.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
And that's how we treat gender. Yeah.
um, okay, so it says the meaning placed on an object or event by a society. So,
Oh, yeah, but
uh,
an object is like I found another definition that doesn't use objects. So what I draw from that is that by object they mean the metaphysical idea of an object, which simply is another term for construct or concept.
wait, I'm confused.
An object does not have to be material. An
Oh yeah,
idea
it
can
does.
be an object.
Yeah, it can. But like males and females aren't an object, right?
Oh, uh, you can treat them that way. You can
Yeah,
like
but they aren't objects.
yes, they are. Everything is an object relative to something else.
Okay, so if they're not an object, how can you place a meaning on a human? Well,
Uh,
was
okay, I can read you the definition I found if you want. Definition of social construct: an idea that has been created and accepted by the people in a society. So it doesn't have to be an object, and the you could interpret the definition to and then object would be concept,
yeah, it can either be
but
an object or an event, right? But humans are none
oh,
of those two.
oh wait, humans are objects, obviously.
How? What? How are they? Okay, so
If I describe a human, I am making descriptions of them. I am objectifying them.
yeah, but that doesn't make them an object.
Oh, an object is simply something that you relate something to. Anything can be an object.
An object is something that can be used, let's say, for example, okay, so my phone is an object, right? I can use it in a specific way, and it doesn't. Okay, so an object, most of the times, an object doesn't have the choice to do something, right? I control the object. So since humans have the choice to do stuff, how are they objects?
Okay, so the one I would use here is a person or thing to which a specified action or feeling is directed. So so you see person or so it can be a person. An object can be a person. The only important thing about an object, and it's easier for me to grasp this because it's ingrained in German grammar. But the only thing for something to qualify as an object is that something has to be directed at it.
I mean, I can agree to at least an extent, right? And like a human can be an object in philosophy, but like let's if we take on practice, like it cannot be like this contrast with abstract objects as this mathematical objects, like which do not exist at any particular place or time, right? So, like examples are, let's say a cloud is an object, right? A human body is an object, a weight, or a table or whatever. But like humans themselves cannot be considered one.
Yes, they can. Like you said, they can be in philosophy. Well,
Yeah,
if
but like when you take it to practice,
okay,
it's
wait,
different.
definitions, and the identifications of social constructs are a matter of ontology. So it falls under philosophy.
Are you speaking in terms of philosophy or physics? Because in physics, there's no way human can be an object.
Wait. There doesn't exist such a thing as a physical social construct. There is no such thing.
Oh yeah, I never said so. But are you
Oh yeah,
are you
that then we don't care about the physical thing. We care about the philosophical aspects.
why is that? I'm talking about whether or not a human can be an object. That doesn't have to do with social construction.
Yes, it does. A human can be subject to
Not
a
direct.
philosophical concept.
If a human, okay, if the human in question can think and exist on their own, then this person is not an object.
Oh, we don't treat them as an object, but they technically still are an object. Like the difference between a rock and a human is simply that that one is a little more complex. That's it. I can post you the definition I found if you want. Like if the definition of object confuses you, then I can just give you a definition I found without using the word object. I just posted it in general.
So, do you believe that objectifying women is a good thing?
No.
Okay, so how can you objectify all people saying they're all objects, but when I objectify a woman, you're saying that's bad?
Okay, so the reason why we don't objectify women is because we acknowledge that we shouldn't treat them as such, but that
But
doesn't change the
you
fact that
treat all,
every. Okay,
you just
so the reason we don't objectify women is because we care more about the way we treat them and the way objectifying them would like influence our behavior, but that doesn't change the fact that just like everyone else, they are an object.
if you're gonna say that all humans on this planet on this earth is it, are objects, then how can I not say that women are also objects? I mean, you're saying all humans are, so why aren't women?
Yeah, dude. There's a difference between what is objectively true, or rather how things are, and how we act. So this is what we call a metaphorical truth. A metaphorical truth is something that isn't actually true or isn't falsifiable, but we still treat it as true because it makes our lives better. So every person on Earth is technically an object, but we have the metaphorical truth of no one is an object, because if we believe this, then we are going to treat people better.
Can you give me the source that suggests that an object is what you posted in general?
Okay, sure.
Okay, let me take a look. Ideas be created, accepted by people in a society. Okay. Uh,
Oh, and I think I found another one. And I found another definition that doesn't use the doesn't use the word object either. They're using concept instead, which is the better term. It's also in BC Gen.
object, a material thing that can be seen and touched. A person or thing to which a specified action or feeling is directed.
Yeah.
And say something to. Okay.
So the
Um,
second one already applies.
but the second one is talking about a specific action or feeling on a person, not the person themselves.
What?
Yeah, okay. So it says that the the action a person makes or a feeling that a person has is an object, but the
No,
person
no,
themselves
no.
is not.
So no, the action of feeling that is directed is in the nominative in German terms, while the person is here in the objective tense. Okay, so um, I could if I reform that sentence, and English is hard. Um, I could say a specified action or feeling is directed against a person. Against implies an object.
Wait, a what? A
If I look, so
I don't know. What was the
if I
definition? Uh,
okay,
like,
so the second sentence you read out there is a so-called ellipse, and if you were to rephrase the sentence, you could phrase it in a way that makes it obvious that the person is here in the object tense.
no, you just gave a definition as to what an object is. You said, is it something? Wait, am I, am I uh having illusions or something? Did I not hear you say definition? No.
What?
I think I heard you say definition of what an object is.
Yeah. So the definition of what an object is a person or thing to which a specified action or feeling is directed. A
Wait,
thing,
repeat that. A
a
person or
person,
thing.
a person or thing to which a specified action or feeling is directed. A thing can be anything.
Okay. A person or thing to which a specified action or feeling is directed. Yeah. So if it basically it gives an example below, and it says disease became the object of investigation, right?
Yeah. Or if you want to apply it to our behavior, to our thing, I could say the behavioral patterns that different humans express became objects to classification.
Uh, okay, so wait, would something be capable of experiencing basic emotions and sensations such as pain, fear, pleasure, joy, like an object, let's say? Okay, so something with the most basic abilities to be considered a living thing, such as reproduction, is an object. Like, okay, that doesn't really make sense. Like, okay, so what would matter is if the feelings and sensations of uh, humans are acknowledged by their society. So for a long time around the world, humans would see other humans as possessions, right? Like the slavery and to trade and use, however they wanted. So for an even longer time, women were seen as possessions. And during those times, the answer would be simple: the enslaved person's thinking was non-existent. So therefore, the slave was a the slave was an object. He was considered, or they were considered an object. So it was common, for example, for men to rape women
Okay,
with
yeah,
no
you can stop. Okay,
okay.
so there's a difference between treating someone as an object and identifying them as an object. The difference is, if you treat someone as an object, then you treat them as if they have no agency, whereas if you identify someone as an object, that means you identify that something is directed against them.
Okay, so
This is
I
literally
I think I think
this is literally a semantic difference. Can we move on?
I think there's a difference between an object and a direct object for me.
Okay, but both are an object. So like, yeah, there's different definitions, but like I said, we care about the relevant definition, not any definition.
Okay, so wait, how did we even come to this argument again?
Oh, you put up some definition of social construct that used the word object and didn't understand how an object can be a philosophical
Oh,
construct.
okay, so it didn't specify whether or not it was a direct object or an object in general,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Okay, so we need to figure that out first because if
Oh,
it's a
wait,
direct object,
we can inductively reason that it was a directed object because I have another definition. In fact, I have two other definitions, both in the Gen 1, and both of them don't have to use the word object. In fact, the latter one of them uses the term concept instead, which supports my thesis.
wait, so if we go back to the definition of social construct. Okay, so what is your definition of it again? It's wait, let me check. General.
A
You
concept or
said
perception of something based on a collective use developed and maintained within a society or social group, a social phenomenon or convention originating within and cultivated by society or a particular social group, as opposed to existing inherently or naturally.
okay, so I found the definition which says an idea that has been created and accepted by the people in a society.
That still works.
Okay, so an idea, as you said, can also be an object.
Yes.
Will it be a direct object or an object in general?
Uh, I don't make a difference between those two, but
A direct object is my phone, but an object, as we argued, is basically a human too.
okay, yeah. So it would be an object, not a direct object.
Okay.
All right.
Uh,
All right. Do you want to move on to socialism?
what's the conclusion of this argument, though?
Oh, the conclusion of this argument is that gender falls under the category of social construct because there's no such thing as the inherent expectations that boys like blue or girls like pink or some bullshit like that. And we know that there is no such thing because one, we haven't proven it, and two, we have examples of the opposite.
Wait, do you agree that gender is partly socially constructed, but not just a social construct?
Uh, Gender is only the social construct, but there are some correlations with behavioral patterns that are biological. But the thing is, behavioral patterns originate from the brain, so you would have to be the one to prove that those are directly linked to the brain. And I have sources, or at least I could find them, that say that the brain of transgender people aligns more with the gender they identify as. So that would actually support the thesis that trans people should be identified as what they identify as.
So the study that you're talking about basically says that if a man identifies as a woman, their brain is like they're less aggressive or something. Like, for example, like
Oh, yeah, that definitely. So, a part of aggression is testosterone, and you would have to go through hormone therapy first. But yeah, so if I were to look at transgender people and against cis people, and I just look at the way they behave, then the trans people would usually act more similar to the people they identify as than the way they are born.
I'm trying. Okay, what? Okay, so there are gender norms, there are gender roles, and gender identities, and gender in general. So I'm trying to figure out what gender in general is, like what
Oh,
exact.
gender. So sex identifies the biological things. Gender, gender addresses only the social construct.
Or is gender and
Gender,
gender identity the same?
what? Gender identity and gender are the same to me. Yeah. So gender would be the expectations that we have to people that align closely to expectations we have to the way cis people usually behave. That's what we construct them around, but they are pretty much made up. They have roots in reality, but they are detached from it.
I see where you're coming from. Uh, okay,
All
so
right.
gender obviously isn't natural with your logic,
Yeah.
right?
Great.
Uh, okay, so what I understood is gender is a feature of social situations, which both does not come uh, or a let's say rational provided social arrangements and uh, means of legitimating one of the most let's say fundamental divisions of society. Uh, okay, so basically, gender is an emergent feature of social situation.
Yeah, that would be an application. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to move on to market socialism?
Uh, yeah, sure.
All right. So I'll start just with my side. I would say my pitch. So I believe that we should move on to market socialism because under the current system, uh, workers are, through the Marxian lens, by definition being exploited, which means that they don't get as much pay as we could give them under market socialism. And what this does is it unfairly distributes power to those who have wealth. It unfairly creates a hierarchy between those who own the means of production and those who don't. And I think that it overall limits society because we always have to account for the interests of the most wealthy people. For example, climate change is only such a big problem because the people with wealth have an easy way of pushing large lobbying, whereas if the money was more evenly distributed, then it would be way less likely that enough people come together to create such amount of propaganda. So therefore, I believe that market socialism would be for the best of society.
Okay, let's start with the basic stuff. Rich people do not stay as rich, and poor people do not stay as poor. They move from low and up from percent, and maybe even move down or up from the 1% constantly, or like
Oh
let's
yeah,
say 5 times in a row.
um, they do
So
move. they do move, but they don't move a lot. So
But
what we
yeah, they
call
could move like 5 times in a row, which of 1%, so that would be 5%, right?
okay, yeah, I think I
So
understand.
that's possible too.
Uh, okay, so everything is theoretically possible, but we care about the odds.
Okay,
So
so what are
there's
some statistics that show otherwise?
what?
What are some statistics that you might have that show otherwise? That people do not
Um,
stay as people.
because, I tried researching this the other day. I couldn't find the exact thing. I think it takes like 2 or 3 generations for someone who is poor to advance to the middle class. So that's already an enormous amount of time. Like that's more than a lifetime. That's more than one person. So yeah, that doesn't seem that great to me. And also, even if the social mobility was higher, then we would still have to ask the question: does this actually justify the way in which certain people are treated better than others? And I don't think that it justifies that.
Did you know that rich people get more tax though in the U.S.?
Okay. Yeah, in the US they do. Okay.
Okay. So it's not completely unfair. Like
Oh wait, the reason why these people are rich in the first place is because
because they earn the money.
they exploit their workers.
I mean, like okay, so they don't necessarily have to start a business to get rich, right? They could be rich before they start a business. And I mean, let's say that a person gets rich because they get the money from their family, but their family didn't get the money from nowhere either. And like the people that gave the money to their family didn't get the money from nowhere again. So the money
So
always comes from somewhere, and it doesn't have to be business.
okay, so yeah, I agree. It doesn't have to be business.
So
That would be
how do
that
they
would be
necessarily exploit their workers? Like,
wait. At some point in time, they definitely did because otherwise they wouldn't have that money.
not
The
all
only
rich people have businesses, though, right?
oh yeah, but how do they otherwise get the money? They could invest in stock markets. In that case, they get the money from people who have exploited the business. Or they could, I don't know, manipulate like buy gold and wait for the prices to go up. But the way currency works, if one person has money, then the money of all other people is worth less. So this way they would also exploit everyone else because the mere existence of their wealth, which is completely useless if they don't invest it, drives down the economy.
They do invest it.
So
They
oh
don't
yeah,
just.
they should invest it. Like,
Oh,
okay,
they do. They
I
do.
don't okay, I don't accept the premise that they do. They do invest a lot, but the amount they invest has gone down in the last couple of years. So what we call what we could call lazy wealth or just wealth that isn't invested has gone up by a lot. So that's economically inefficient, and
So
that's
wait. The majority of rich people do not invest. Is that what you're saying?
oh wait, I'm not saying the majority. I'm saying the amount of rich people that do invest and the amount of the things that and the amount of money they invest has gone down. And the thing is, even if they do invest, then they're going to exploit people because that's the way you increase money. They wouldn't invest money if they can get more.
I mean, investing is putting in money and then getting more money in return. That's investing. Otherwise, it's not
Yes, correct.
investing.
Correct. And
Yes.
in order to do that, you have to exploit people because that's the only way you can. That's the only place where the extra money can come from.
I mean, not exactly, right? So you could okay, so you could for example get a water bottle for let's say 50 cents and then go and like I mean, would you call selling it for like 10 cents more. Would you call that? Would you call that exploitation?
Okay, so two things. One, that's a minuscule thing. And two, why would anyone buy a water bottle for 10 cents more if they have the opportunity to buy it for 10 cents less? And the answer to that would be because they can't
Because
for some reason.
maybe they only have one shop in like the place they live, and that's the closest one. So they
Yes, so in that
buy.
case, yeah, in that case, you would be exploiting the fact that they don't have access.
I mean, you wouldn't know that they don't have access. You just know that they're
Wait,
costing. You don't
that's
know.
irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant whether you know or not. That doesn't change the fact that you're exploiting
You
them.
don't know if the people that come to your shop have a car that can go to another town to go to another stop, which says the water bottle can like cheaper.
Okay, so
Okay, so therefore, he just makes the water bottle like 10 cents more expensive just because not because he wants to exploit the people and because he knows that they cannot go on another sub, but simply
okay,
because he wants to make profit from it.
yeah, so
Yeah.
the intentions of the person are irrelevant.
Okay, but would you call it like exploitation if I sold it for 10 cents more?
That relies. Have you put some labor into it?
Have I put what?
Okay, so let's say there's some shop. It's like 50, it's like 100 miles away, and let's say Sprit is pretty costly, and you drive there and get the water, and this is the only way you can get water. And back at home, you sell the water for 10 cents more. Then I would say that's not exploitation, because the extra 10 cents account for the labor you have done by getting the water.
Okay, so conclusion is in order to uh, invest, you need to exploit people.
Yes.
And how exactly does the exploitation happen?
Oh, here's how the exploitation happens. So let's say you are working at any kind of company, and we can now put the work process in like three parts. So in the first one, you are going to take some resources. We call those the means of production. In the second process, and let's say the resources are like worth $10. So in the second process, you work on the product, and in the third step, the product is sold on the market for $60. So where do the extra $50 come from? Well, they come from your labor. But you are never going to get $50 because your boss wants to make a profit. So he takes some of the money that belongs to you because you created that value simply because he can.
I mean, he takes the risk of everything that's happening in
Oh,
the business.
yeah, we have so that there's two problems with that. So for one, we call rewarding risk. Like if somebody invests money and we give him extra money because he took a risk, we call that gambling. And I don't think we should structure our economy in accounts of gambling. And the second argument is people don't really care much about that risk. People like they are being company started frequently, and the reason why this person started the risk and other people didn't is because the other people didn't have the money to start to take the risk. So it wouldn't really be fair to say, okay, you took a risk, therefore we reward you, because the other guy couldn't take the risk.
I mean, okay, a worker could take the risk. But like, okay, so when I say that the business's owner takes the risk, I don't mean there's not only one risk they take, right? There are multiple risks. Like, okay, so let's uh let's say that there's a huge construction happening, which is dangerous, and men are like likely to die there in that job. Okay, so since we've established that, we say that the owner of that business has the risk of getting the workers killed, and the workers have the risk of dying. But which risk is more important?
I would say that dying is maybe a bigger problem.
Yeah. Uh, but the boss that could have the workers dead actually, I think in my opinion takes a bigger risk because he can definitely get a big punishment for that. Correct? Like he could get a punishment worse than death. Let's say.
Okay.
So the boss takes more risk in that
Yeah,
case.
I don't deny that he usually. Okay, I don't deny that the boss takes more risk. But the reason he can take more risk is because he had something to risk in the first place. Like
Oh yeah, he did.
most people live from paycheck to paycheck. They aren't even allowed to take that risk.
But the worker could also create his own business and take the same risk.
Yeah, like
So
I
they
said,
both
people with what money? Like
with
people.
okay, so they could borrow. Okay, I don't know exactly how this is called, but basically, I know there's a system. Okay, so since English isn't my first language, I know there's a system that where you can take money from, and then you basically it's temporary money, and then you have to somehow pay it back. Like
Okay,
okay, so that person could like borrow, let's say, $10,000 and start a small business, make more money from that business, and then pay it back.
okay,
Okay, so then he started the business and he has the same risk that his boss had in the past.
okay,
So they both have the same opportunities.
okay. No, they don't have the same opportunities because taking a loan means that you are subject to interest. So the risk you're taking is way higher. And also, like the biggest problem with that is, why do the workers have to account for the risk the boss is taking? Like
Why? A
they
more brilliant question would be why do the workers have to own the means of production?
oh, because it makes them happier, because it
It makes
distributes.
them happier.
Yes, it makes them so much happier. Holy
Of
shit.
course,
Okay,
but
not
like,
so
how is that
much.
an argument? Like, we're not arguing about happiness. We're arguing about what
We are
the
arguing
world
about
could
happiness.
be
Wait,
better like.
do you not want to make people happy?
I mean, making people happy isn't necessarily the way you could make society better.
What? Yeah, making society better is making people happier,
Not
isn't it?
exactly.
No. What would be the other what be another metric?
I mean, if a society is, let's say, extremely rich in a lot of stuff, not just its economy, and the people in that society weren't exactly happy, that society would still be good.
No. Why would
Why?
that be good?
Because it's a good,
Okay, if I
a fully functioning
if I give you a
society.
million dollars,
Uh,
if I give you $1 million, and I also give you depression for a lifetime, every day you will think about killing yourself, you will hate yourself every second you exist, and I give you all the money of the world for that.
I'm not talking
You
about
wouldn't
that
take.
example. You exaggerated it. So what I'm
Well, yeah, of
saying
course I
is,
exaggerated. Money is just a means for happiness. It's irrelevant. It's like it's
I'm not,
secondary.
that's why I said it's rich in the stuff that it has, but not just the economy.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, if it has like a lot of stuff besides the economy, and the people and they weren't necessarily happy, but they weren't like sad either. That society would still be a good society because the system works just fine.
By what metric do you determine whether the system is working or not?
Because it simply exists. It still exists like without being destroyed by
Oh
something.
wait, social.
If a society, okay, so a society, in order for society to be considered good, you do not take uh, the people into as much account as you do for like the system of the society, right? So like the system has to work. you value the system of that society more than its people, but you still value the people. And if the system of that society works fine, then that society is fine.
Why? Okay, so the metric you just gave me for whether a system is working or whether a system is good or not is whether it doesn't crash. So the only metric for whether a system is good would be whether it exists.
No, if it's working, okay, so if we say that a system is working, a society is working fine, uh, that society has to have a good economy. It has to have a, uh, let's say, a good. Um, okay, so no, actually, what am I even trying to think about? Like the economy is the major thing about whether or not the society works well.
Why?
Because
Also, why do you think it would be worse under socialism?
okay, so socialism focuses on the people, not the system itself.
Okay, we have actually measured that people in a worker co-op, which is market socialism, are
Yeah, but what I'm
way
saying
more
is,
productive.
in a society, in order for society to be considered a fine society or a good society, the system in that society has to work well, not the people to be happy. You value the system of that society more than you value the people, but you still value the people to an extent.
Okay, so why would I value the system over the people?
Because
Why?
the system is what makes the people what they are.
Okay, so we value the system because it makes people happy, don't we?
Not necessarily to make people happy, but to make people help the society.
To make people what?
Help the society that they live in.
Yeah, okay, but by what metric do you measure health?
By what metric do I measure what? Health?
By help.
Oh,
Like, if you mean, if you're talking about maybe creating a system in which people help each other, then that's market socialism. I can give you the data on it if you want.
okay, so I'm gonna try to make myself like clear. So what I'm saying is, in order for, okay, so in a society, you do value the people, uh, but you also value the system. And I don't say, like, keep this in mind. I do not say do not value the people at all. I'm saying value the system more than you value the people, because the system makes the people what they are, and the people help the system. And
Oh,
without the system, the people wouldn't help the system, right?
okay, sorry, dude, but like
So you value the system
saying,
more.
you're saying value the system because it makes people help the system, but you haven't identified what the point is yet. So you're saying that we should value the system because it
Because
makes
the
people
system
value the system.
because we should value the system more because the system makes the people in that system help itself, right? So if the system didn't exist, then the people that lived in that system wouldn't be able to help it.
Okay. Yeah, what do you mean by help? Like you're saying they help the system, but what does that mean?
Okay, let's say, okay, so helping a system is, okay, so we should start, okay, so in order to help a society, uh, you have to take like you have to take, okay, so if you work a job and you uh get paid for that job, and you help, like, okay, so if you work as a let's say as a construction worker and you build things, that, like, if those buildings that you as a construction worker build didn't exist in that society, then that society wouldn't be what it is, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so therefore, Since the system pays you to do the job that you do, since you wouldn't do it voluntarily, then the system makes you what you are, and you help the system, and so therefore help society.
Okay. And how would that change under market socialism?
Because socialism values people more than the system.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that it can't uphold the system.
It can't what?
That doesn't mean that it can't uphold the system. Like, do you know what market socialism means?
Give me the definition of it, like in your own words.
Okay,
Like,
market socialism means that we upkeep the market, but we give the means of production to the workers in a certain company. So we still have different companies competing on the market, but all the companies are democratically controlled by the workers who work there.
so your conclusion to all that is that you value people more than the system. That's your conclusion with that logic.
The system is whatever it is right now. What?
Yeah, so you value the people that live in the system more than the system itself with the logic that you just gave, right?
You still haven't told me what exactly the system is. Like, do you think is the system whatever it is right now?
Yeah, the system is everything that there is right now.
Okay,
That's
so if we change the system, then we can uphold the new system, right?
yeah,
Okay, market socialism does
yeah,
that.
but that doesn't mean that the new system would be better.
Okay, by what metric do you determine whether a system is good or not?
I gave you the examples before. Let's take
Yeah, but your
economy into accountability.
okay, so your logic, as I understand, is that it was kind of circular. Like you described a good system as a system that shapes the people of it in a way that make them want to help the system, and that's circular because why is helping the system good? Well, because the system is good. Why is the system good? Well, because it makes people help the system.
Yeah, because if the system didn't pay the people the way it does, then
Yeah,
the people
that circular.
wouldn't help the system.
Yeah, that's circular. You're saying the system is good because it upholds itself.
I'm saying the system is good because people that live in it make it good.
Okay, by what metric do you determine good?
Let's take economy into accountability. Like, if it has a good economy, then it certainly is a good system because the economy basically determines what the system will have inside of it.
Okay, why do you value the economy?
Because the economy helps the system. It doesn't help the system directly, it helps the people, which help the system.
Okay, that's still circular. Now you're saying the system is good because it makes the people help the system, which helps the economy, which helps the system.
Okay, so economy helps the system, and okay, so economy helps the people. People help the system, and so if the system didn't work the way it does, then the people wouldn't help the system, and so there would be a corrupt system.
Okay, and why why would that change under market socialism? Why wouldn't people uphold
Because
the
in
system anymore?
with the system I'm talking about, you value the system more than you value the people in it, but you still value the people. And
Okay.
while in socialism, you value the people more.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I don't value upholding the system.
Oh, I never said so.
Okay.
Yeah, my disagreement is that you value people more than the system itself.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry for that. Do you have like even if that's true, you would still have to prove that that leads to problems.
Okay, so okay, so there's let's say that the economy is bad. Okay, so people wouldn't work as a construction worker because that gives bad income, and since the economy is already bad, they do not want to be uh, a family with very low income, right? So they would choose another job. And so if there aren't any construction workers because they hate that job because of the income that they get, then how are you going to help the system?
Oh, actually, socialism does a good job to solve that. Currently, many jobs that are essential are not being worked at, or they are incredibly underpaid under capitalism. So, if we had market socialism and maybe nationalized, like, okay, that wouldn't be market socialism anymore, but if we transition and nationalize some of the businesses, then we can actually do a better job than our current system at doing necessary things to uphold the system.
Uh, Part of that actually confused me.
Okay, so certain jobs under capitalism aren't really paid for because they don't create a profit, but they are still necessary. So
Yeah.
helping the elderly or
Like what jobs?
helping the elderly is pretty important. Restoration can be pretty important. Um, uh, what else? Medical services are often underpaid. Like all these things are essential to society, yet but because they don't drive a profit, they are underpaid. So if we nationalize them, then we can provide these services more consistently.
So what socialism will do is it will somehow help the income of the jobs that do not make profit.
Yeah.
And how would it do that?
Oh, by nationalizing the services and funding it through taxes. That's not market socialism, by the way. Under market socialism, we would have the same system as right now in regards to that, but it's easier if you already have market socialism to transition to nationalize essential services.
I see. Um, I'm actually thinking of the consequences of those actions. Like I'm trying to think what would happen if all of those stuff worked. Um, okay, so let's say that okay, in socialism, um, a construction worker will get more income than they do in, let's say, capitalism.
Uh, Under nationalization, yes.
Okay, so all the jobs would get a similar income.
Uh, yeah, most jobs except for CEO.
So, so what? Why? Wait, do you believe that a doctor should be paid the same or similar as a waiter?
No, I think a doctor is more essential to society. But um, the only jobs for which we decide to pay are those which we nationalize. A large part of the economy is going to remain market for a while, which means that the wage is going to be decided by the market just as it is right now.
So what socialism would do is it would pay the jobs that are necessary to society more than it pays the other jobs that are not necessary.
What we would do is you fund the jobs who are
By
necessary
paying
which are
taxes.
necessary. Yeah, through taxes.
I mean, that already happens.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, great. Yeah, that's it's just easier under market socialism because
Why are the taxes like less or something?
they the tax system should be made then. Like you would have to look how money is aggregated, but don't know for certain what how I would set the taxes.
Wait, what would be the difference in taxes in socialism?
Oh, not the taxes would be different. So the reason why I would say that nationalizing things is easier under socialism is because under capitalism, we have the new concept of neoliberalism, where basically the rich people fund lobbyistic organizations in order to privatize things that have already been nationalized to create a profit for themselves. And this is only really possible if you have very efficient organization, and under socialism this would be easier to look through, so it wouldn't happen as often.
So okay, so a doctor would in social under okay, so under socialism, a doctor would get paid, let's say, uh, for example, like 1,200 euros a month, and a construction worker would be paid like what compared to that?
Uh, we would pay um we would pay a construction worker whatever we need to pay them to attract workers. So we lower the wages if too many people apply, and we set the wages higher if too few people apply.
Okay, but what if that system doesn't work because people like what if you need a high what if you have to give a high income to the people that work? So like if you advertise uh construction working and say that you guys will get paid like 800 euros a month, and they do not like that and they want more, that wouldn't profit you much, would it?
No, but there's little reason to believe that would be the case.
And why is that?
Well, I haven't really seen people deny the jobs right now, and people are generally willing to do certain jobs if you give them a certain amount of pay. So, like,
Yeah, but like
I don't know, we would have to pay them like 30,000 or something. That seems unlikely, simply because if they demand too much and don't take the jobs, then other people will take them. Like we still have, you gotta keep in mind when we are talking about nationalization, the workers are negotiating with the entirety of the nation through democratic means.
okay. So what's the point you're trying to make?
Huh?
What point are you trying to make
Uh,
by
oh,
that statement?
I just answered an objection of yours. It was just
Oh,
the counterpoint to the idea that we would have problems with essential working.
yeah, I was talking about the last statement, the very last statement.
Okay. Oh yeah. So if your the reason why they wouldn't like be in a position to negotiate for like millions of wages or something is because they are literally negotiating with the entire country. So the wages would always settle around a spectrum that is reasonable, simply because well, the people that are voting on how high their wages should be are also the ones who could theoretically take the job if they think they are too high.
Okay. I guess I do. uh, agree with. Okay, so like before we even started this debate, I was talking about how I think socialism is good in theory, and I do agree with it to an extent. But when it comes to practice, I don't think it would work in today's society. Like
Oh,
from what we have right.
okay, so it does work already in part. So what we already have are so-called worker co-ops, and not only do they fail, do they not fail, they are more successful in the first couple of years, where most of the traditional companies fail. They are way more resilient to crisis, which means that they fire less people. They make people happier. They just do. And they also one more thing. They also increase productivity. So and the way we would go about this is we use a model that is already existing, which means that if a boss retires, then we would have to create a system in which the workers have an easy way of buying the company off from him, and this way we can gradually transition to market socialism without expropriating anything, without any problems, step by step.
Okay. Uh, so that okay. So if we tried, the point that I'm trying to make is if we tried to apply that system in today's society, it just like it wouldn't work. Like it just like it would fail. The moment that you try to apply it in the society in 2020, it would just fail.
Okay,
It
so
couldn't
it's
work.
it's already working in parts. So
Oh yeah, but
why would it
what?
fail?
Why? Okay, because those parts weren't like okay, so you can't say that the systems that have socialism now like were working like the U.S. and so the U.S. like if you try to apply socialism to the U.S.
Okay,
the system.
wait. I have to make clarification here. So the worker co-ops I'm talking about already exist within the US, and they are working there.
I mean, every state in the U.S. has different laws, so it depends.
Okay, yeah, the US does actually have very anti-cooperation laws, and still corporations survive in the US.
Okay, so what if we tried to apply socialism to a place like, um, let's say Texas? Like,
Okay,
would that work?
I don't know. I'm not an American. I don't know about the specific locations. Like, I just told you the transitionary model, and yeah, that would work.
I don't believe that if you try to apply socialism to, let's say, California or New York or whatever, like it just it wouldn't work out very well
Why?
because there are. Okay, so what would socialism do? Like, I haven't asked this yet. Like, what would socialism do with the rich people that exist in the
Oh,
system already?
nothing. We keep taxing them, and if they want to create more money for themselves, they can work.
Okay, so the rich people in socialism would still stay rich, and poor people would still stay poor.
Oh, we would probably increase taxes, but we
To
don't
rich
have
people.
to. And poor people would stay poor less, simply for the reason that now we can give them higher wages. Because, like I explained earlier, in the current system, of the wages they get, there's cut off already the profit that the boss makes, and if they no longer have to give a profit to their boss, then they get more money. So it's
If there are more poor people than there are rich people, and you make rich people pay taxes, and so the money, uh, that rich people pay to the taxes go to the poor people, then rich people would become poor and poor people would become rich.
No.
I mean, they would go to middle class, but yeah, you get what I mean. Rich
Yeah,
people would lose
but,
money
but
because that
there's
money goes to poor people.
more poor people than rich people, so I'm still helping
Yeah,
more.
exactly.
Yeah, so that's good, isn't it?
I got them in the
Yes. Okay, so since there are more poor people than rich people, then that means that if you pay, like, if you make rich people pay more taxes and then the money that the rich people pay go to the poor people, then
Oh,
that means
you don't have to go have it go directly to the poor people. That's
then
the
where
reason.
does it go?
Um, it goes into healthcare. We would make that public. It goes it would go to workers who would theoretically be able to buy up a company. We would give them 0% or like 0 point something percent loan, so that they can buy off the companies of their boss. And that's how we would fund the transition. And if we are deep enough into market socialism, poor people wouldn't really be a thing anymore, simply because, like, and this is provable, corporations are way better at reducing unemployment. Because the reason is, in a capitalist company, if there are unemployed people, or then they could theoretically take them in, but if it's not profitable for them, because they want to instead have their employees they already have work longer hours, then they do that. Whereas under the cooperation model, the under the cooperation model, you would simply reduce the hours every individual worker works and hire more people, and that reduces unemployment.
Okay. Do investments happen in under socialism?
You can have investment be happen through the state. You can have a central bank from which people loan money at low interest rates. And yeah, I know, Jim, this isn't really a debate. I know. Um, you can do that. And like I said, like healthcare is pretty important. Welfare for those who can't work is pretty important. So that's where the money goes.
Okay, so basically investment would happen. It like if socialism was applied, then you would still have investments, which is basically profiting from, like, it's giving money and then getting more back,
Huh?
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's investing. So in order to invest, you need to exploit people, right?
Oh, no longer, because the reason why I described as exploitation earlier is because you invest in order to make a profit. But if we do it through a state and democratically, then the reason why we invest is to improve society.
But
So
investment means that you give money and get paid more than you gave.
oh yeah, so investment wouldn't really be the correct term to use if that's how you understand investment. So we would allocate resources.
So under socialism, you wouldn't be able, let's say, give a specific amount of money, uh, in a business and then get more back.
No, you wouldn't.
Okay. So what, like, would you get the same money that you gave or less money?
Uh, what for what?
Like, if you tried to invest in a business, would you, since you say that, uh, I wouldn't be able to get more money than I gave into a business if we had socialism. So what would I get?
Oh, okay. So you wouldn't invest into a business. We would support businesses through the state. We would have some fund for that. But usually that's not really necessary. And if you mean how do we create new companies, there's different approaches for this. I heard some ideas that we could have the state plan it as well. I don't really like that. What you could do is that you allow some exploitation in the first couple of years until whoever invested the money has gotten like, I don't know, like 300% back. So then you still have some problem with exploitation, but it's temporarily limited, and this way you can still have new companies, but the problem of exploitation vanishes after a couple of years.
Uh, I mean, yeah, socialism. I guess by what you've said so far, socialism could work, if it was applied. But why would you want to do that if the current system is working fine?
Oh, I don't think the current system is working fine. We have like an economic crisis every 8 or 9 years. We have lots of homeless people despite having way too much houses. We have we have giant exploitation of the third world because we can afford such way too low prices that could be adjusted in another way. And also, I don't think the system makes people happy enough.
What will happen to third world countries under socialism?
Oh, not much would change, but you could make an argument that I could support this. I'm not sure whether this applies to other countries as well, but we can already see that cooperation models tend to behave more communally active, and if this is true even for outside communities, then it would under socialism be easier to get policies through that support the third world.
Okay. But so even if that happened, then third world countries would still, like it would still like without the third world countries, you wouldn't have what you have in like other countries, even under socialism.
Oh yeah, sure. We would keep trading with them.
But like they work in third world countries, like they in most of the cases they get paid like $1 a day for like making the iPhone that
Yeah.
people buy. So how
Um.
would socialism change that?
Uh. I don't think like. So here's the thing. Capitalism doesn't really solve it either. So
Yeah, but
even if
how would socialism change it?
yeah, so even if socialism didn't solve that, that wouldn't go against socialism. And the reason why I think that socialism would make it easier to solve this problem is because we have already seen that corporations are more communally active, and if we can extend this to other countries, then we could extrapolate, if this works, that people that work in co-ops are more willing to support and to work together with people in third world countries.
Okay. Um. Well, I guess you've convinced me so far in some specific stuff. I always like if you see in the other server, I have no roles. Like doesn't say whether or not I'm left leaning or right leaning because I'm not a radical centrist, but I would call myself like I could call myself a different kind of centrist. So what I do is I take ideas from the right and then take ideas from the left, combine them, and make something better out of that.
Oh
So
yeah, so
yeah, I
you
don't
can try to
think.
do that. I would do that as well if I thought the right had any good ideas, but I don't. Um, but yeah, sure.
Okay,
I
what
mean,
about guns? Are you anti-gun or pro-gun?
oh, I'm not really settled on that. Um, and I think guns aren't really necessary, but then you can also solve the problems we have with guns without taking guns away. So it really relies on whether you already have guns or not.
I mean, what?
So in
Well,
America,
every place has guns, right? But like in certain places, they're either illegal or legal. But like you can't stop
yeah,
people
okay.
from
So I
having
can
them.
describe you this more accurately. So in America, people already have guns.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a better choice to improve things like mental health and healthcare, and also that would be the primary things. I think there's more, and maybe you can do some security checks. But in a place like Germany, I wouldn't say that we should like push more open gun laws because we don't have a gun problem, so we don't really have to fight the sources. We can just leave guns mostly banned.
Okay. What are your thoughts on abortion?
I don't think you're a person until you can have thoughts. Or not thoughts. I don't think you're a person. You are a person unless you can build yourself some kind of conscious or subconscious identity.
No, I mean like abortion.
Yeah. So
How does that have to do
think
with
I think we should allow it.
we should allow abortion at uh like any case?
Oh yeah. Any case.
Okay, so uh even in like right before the baby is born.
Right. If the baby is about to be born, then they wouldn't do an abortion. They would force birth.
Yeah, but are you like would you support the idea that abortion should happen at that point?
Oh, so I personally don't identify that as a person, but I think it would probably work better for right now to say that that shouldn't be aborted. But like, if you can force birth, then that should be done.
I mean, the fact that you do not identify that as a person doesn't mean that it's not a person. It's not a
Oh,
fully functioning human being, but it's still a person. So, like,
oh,
what I did
hey,
is
so
I used
that
to be pro-life, right? And I used to say no abortion should happen. And then there was like this girl that was in a communist or something. Uh, and like so what I did was I agreed with her on some points. Like I agreed that abortions should be cheaper because in order to okay, so I supported the idea that abortions should happen only before the first trimester, and in order for them to happen before the first trimester, everyone needs to have the same opportunities for abortions, and since they're kind of expensive, nobody has the same opportunities. So I suggested that abortions should be cheaper, and so that could help in applying them in like under like before the first trimester. And
okay.
so yeah,
Oh yeah, that would be a solution too. We should definitely make them cheaper. Put them
yeah,
on the
and
head. We
I do
should put them
not
on the healthcare.
I do not support the idea of having an abortion after the first trimester.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so that's basically a combination of the two sides, you could say.
Oh yeah, as long as you support putting it on the healthcare, then I definitely agree.
Yeah. So I wouldn't like I can't I would never like go with one side only, like only being a socialist or a communist or a capitalist or whatever. I'm just taking ideas from both and combining them. And in the future, I believe that I will find like so combining ideas isn't always good, and so there would be uh, a system like socialism, for example, which could be the best out of all the other systems. So what I'm currently what I'm currently trying to figure out is whether or not combining ideas is better or being on one ideology only.
So I mean, every ideology already combines ideas.
Like,
So
not
I would say
necessarily.
I would say you shouldn't really care if something is a combination of something.
No, I'm
Or
talking
if some-
about certain combinations, like, the argument that it gave you an abortion. So, like, the right side is like, oh, no abortion should happen, and the left side is only abortion should happen. And I took the two and were like, you know what? They should happen under circumstances.
Okay,
No, I
yeah.
meant like, well, abortions at like any case, like.
Okay, yeah, I think that should happen in any case. Simply because if you go down the road of life of something being already a human life before someone is born or develops any kind of mental structure we usually care about, then you would also have to ask, okay, why does life begin at conception and not already as a sperm? Is masturbating murder? Is having is
Your
from a
your
woman?
sperms aren't developed like the baby after the first trimester. I mean
Oh, yeah,
the
but
the
they are
baby.
but the baby isn't a person already either. So
What is a
where
person?
you to me a person is someone who can unconsciously or consciously articulate a vision of themselves, an idea of
Uh,
themselves.
okay, so what a person is to me is basically a human with at least more than half of the basic human senses. Like, for example, when the baby starts developing a viable heartbeat after the first trimester, and it can feel pain, and it can, like, after the second trimester, it can start to have a sense of smell and taste. That's a person to me.
Okay, so we can go with that and say that after the second trimester we shouldn't abort babies. That would be fine with me. We can agree, like, we can make a compromise there. Like,
I'm not sure if babies still feel pain before the before the third no, wait. I'm not sure if they feel pain in the first trimester. I need to check the because if they don't, then yeah, sure, you could. I could go with like second trimester at maximum.
okay, sure, yeah. All right. Do you have any other topics, or should we?
I don't know. It's kind of late here.
All right. Oh, see you around. Good talk.
Alright, bye.
Bye. Holy fucking shit! Kill me! Ah! God damn it.